31, we would like to write the left-hand side of the equation in the form a plus sine x over b plus sine x. So we know that tangent x plus secant x all squared secant x all squared, we can expand this expression. It's going to be tangent square plus 2 secant x tangent x plus secant square x. So that is how we expand that expression. Tangent x is sine over cosine, so tangent square is sine square x over cosine square x plus 2 times 1 over cosine x times sine x over cosine x. And then secant square is 1 over cosine square x. Now, this can be written as sine square x over cosine square x plus 2 sine x over cosine times cosine is cosine square x plus 1 over cosine square x. Now, I'm going to combine all of these terms over one denominator, so this is equal to sine square x plus 2 sine x plus 1 over cosine square x. We know that cosine square x is equal to 1 minus sine square x. So sine square x plus 2 sine x plus 1 over 1 minus sine square x. I'm going to factor the numerator and denominator. So the numerator factors into sine x and sine x here as well. And then I need two numbers. The product is 1 and their sum is 2. That is 1 and 1. So if you multiply these again, you're going to end up with the same expression at the top. 1 minus sine squared, this is difference between two squares, so it's 1 minus sine x times 1 plus sine x. Now, we notice how one of these is going to cancel. So the final answer will be equals sine x plus 1, or I can just write it backwards. So 1 plus sine x, just to match, over 1 minus sine x. So if we compare that to the right-hand side, a plus sine x, and then b plus sine, minus sine x, then a is equal to 1 and b is equal to 1. A is equal to 1 and b is equal to 1. And that's question number 31. Question number 32. We need to write a, or we need to find a. In this case, we're going to use the sum formula and the difference formula for sine and cosine and sine respectively. So cosine x plus pi over 6 is cosine x cosine pi over 6 minus sine x sine pi over 6, and then plus sine x minus pi over 3 is sine x cosine pi over 3 minus cosine x sine pi over 3. Now, we know that pi over 6 and pi over 3 complement each other. So I am going to combine sine terms together and cosine terms together first. So here is a cosine term with a cosine term. If I grab them together, I will have cosine x cosine pi over 6 minus cosine x sine pi over 3. That is the first two terms. And then I'm going to combine the sign terms. I'm going to begin with the positive one. So I'll choose a different color. So I will have plus sine x cosine pi over 3 minus sine x sine pi over 6. I will take cosine out as a common factor from the first two. So we'll have cosine x and then cosine pi over 6 minus sine pi over 3. Plus, I will pull sine out as a common factor from the second one. So I have sine x cosine pi over 3 minus sine pi over 6. Cosine pi over 6 is square root of 3 over 2. Sine pi over 3 is square root of 3 over 2. So this becomes cosine x. And I know that this difference is equal to 0 because those are co-functions and the angles are complements. But anyways, cosine pi over 6 is square root of 3 over 2 minus sine pi over 3 is square root of 3 over 2 plus sine x cosine pi over 3 is 1/2 minus sine pi over 6 is 1/2. So this expression is 0 and that expression becomes 0 since cosine x times 0 plus sine x times 0. So this expression is 0, that expression is 0, 0 plus 0 is 0. So A is equal to 0. Question number 33. Same concept here. Sine x plus y minus sine x minus y. So this is equal to, if I want to expand this expression, I will use the sum and difference formula for sine. So the first expression is sine x cosine y minus, plus cosine x sine y, and then minus, I will open parentheses here, sine x cosine y minus sine cosine x sine y. Now I will distribute the negative inside. So I will have sine x cosine y plus cosine x sine y minus sine x cosine y plus cosine x sine y. Now, like terms are sine x cosine y. Here is the two like terms. And immediately I can cancel these two since one is negative, one is positive. And then cosine x sine y are like terms as well. So if I add them, I will get 2 cosine x sine y. If you compare that to 2f of x, that means f of x will be equal to cosine x sine y. Square 8x minus sine square 8x, I can use the reduction formulas, or I can see immediately here that cosine square minus sine square is cosine double the angle. So cosine square 8x minus sine square 8x is basically equal to cosine double the angle. This is equal to cosine 16x. If you compare that to cosine f of x, then f of x will be equal to 16x. Question number B. In a similar manner, you can find question B. So question B here is a difference between two squares and difference between two squares again. So in this case, I'm going to assume that x is equal to cosine square x, and then y is equal to sine square x, or a and b. Let me just use a and b instead. A and b. Okay, so I can rewrite this, not x, 8x. I can rewrite this as cosine square 8x all raised to the second power, because the power of the power multiplies, minus sine square 8x. Now, this is equal to a square minus b square. So this is difference between two squares, which can be written as a minus b times a plus b. Let me put cosine and sine back in. So I will have cosine square x minus sine square x, 8x, keep forgetting that, times sine square 8x plus cosine square 8x. This expression is equal to 1. So I can rewrite this expression as cosine square 8x minus sine square 8x. Again, this expression is basically cosine double the angle, so cosine double 8x, which will give me cosine times 1, of course, here, times 1. So this is cosine 16x. Now, if you compare that to cosine f of x, you're going to get f of x equals to 16x one more time. Or g of x in this case. Yeah, it's g of x. Question number 35. Without using a calculator, find the value for sine square plus cosine square 38 minus sine 45 over cosine 45. I answered the similar question before, and we said that this expression is equal to 1 because basically this is the Pythagorean identity, and then minus sine 45 and cosine 45 are the same because the function and the cofunction are equivalent if the angles are complements. So 1 minus 1, so that whole expression is equal to 0. Now, if we compare question number 36 to the tangent formula, the difference formula for tangent, the difference formula for tangent says tangent x equals, the difference formula, alpha minus beta is equal to tangent alpha minus tangent beta divided by 1 minus tangent alpha tangent beta. So if we want to reverse this side, if you compare those two sides, you can reverse that and make it the difference between two angles. Namely, alpha is 31, and beta is 29. So this is going to be tangent 31 minus 29, which is equal to tangent degrees. And this is the trigonometric function of one number. Number 37, question number 37. We need to write the expressions as f of x over sine x. So I have the expression is sine x over cosine x minus cosine square cosine to the third x, or cubed. I can see immediately that I can take one cosine out as a common factor. So if I do that, I will have sine x in the numerator, and then in the denominator I will take cosine x out. So I will end up with 1 minus cosine square x. This expression is equal to sine square. So this is going to become sine x over cosine x times sine square x. So one of these signs is going to cancel with the sign in the numerator. Now I can rewrite this as 1 over sine x times 1 over cosine x, and then I'm going to convert that one because I need sine in the denominator. So 1 over cosine is secant. So this is 1 over sine x times secant x. So that becomes secant x over sine x. Now compare that to f of x over sine x. I will have f of x equals secant x. Solving equations number 38. We need to solve the equation 2 sine theta equals square root of 2 over 1 revolution, or 1 full circle. So we have 2 sine theta equals square root of 2. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So I have sine theta equals square root of 2 over 2. I know that sine is positive in the first quadrant and the second quadrant. So the first angle in the first quadrant that gives sine equals square root of 2 over 2 is pi over 4. And then in the third quadrant, it is 3 pi over 4. So the answer is pi over 4 and 3 pi over 4. I'm going to stop there because I'm working over one revolution. Question number 39. I have 7 sine 2 theta minus sine theta. The one is just there. Now, I have sine 2 theta. I don't like this double angle here, so I need to rewrite this as a single angle. 7 sine 2 theta is equal to 2 sine theta cosine theta minus sine theta equals 0. Now, this is equivalent to 14 sine theta cosine theta minus sine theta equals 0. I will take sine out as a common factor. So I will end up with sine theta times 14 cosine theta minus 1 equals 0. I have two expressions. The product is 0. So that means the first one is 0 or the second one is 0. So sine theta equals 0. And then 14 cosine theta minus 1 equals 0. I will solve each one individually. So theta, I'm looking for theta such that sine theta is equal to 0. That is when theta is equal to 0 degrees or radians, and then pi, 0 and pi. Then to solve this equation, I'm going to add 1 to both sides of the equation. I have 14 cosine theta equals 1. I'm going to divide by 14 both sides. So cosine theta is equal to 1 over 14. If I want to find theta here, I'm going to take the inverse cosine of 1 over 14. Make sure that you are in radians mode. The answer is theta equals 1.4993. Approximately, of course, I rounded that. Notice how cosine is positive in the first quadrant and in the fourth quadrant. So this angle happens to be in the first quadrant. I'm going to try to find the angle that is in the fourth quadrant. So this is in the first quadrant. Here, you can imagine that here. So it's approximately here. This is the first angle, theta. And then I need to find the other one equivalent to this one, or equivalent to this one in the fourth quadrant, which is going to be this one. So if I take 2 pi, which this theta is the same measure. So if I take 2 pi and subtract this amount, I will end up with the wanted angle. So I'm going to take 2 pi minus the answer, and that is going to give me 4 point, so the other theta is 4.7839. Of course, I rounded that as well. So that is the answer for this question.